Samson. One of the judges of Israel, perhaps the last before Samuel. The story of his life is told in Judges 3, verse 16. He was an Israelite and was from the tribe of Dan, the son of Manoah. His birth was announced by an angel of the Lord beforehand to his mother, who was barren. The angel told her that she would have a son, that this son would be a Nazirite from his birth, and that the Lord should begin to use him to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Nazirites were under a special vow to God to refrain their carnal nature, thus showing the people generally that if they would receive God's blessing, they must deny and govern themselves to be faithful to their vows of consecration as God's covenant people. The natural strength that Samson exhibited at various times in his career was not his, because he was a natural giant, but because the Spirit of the Lord came upon him and accomplished great deeds. Almost from the beginning of his career, he showed one conspicuous weakness, which was ultimately to wreck him. He was a slave to passion. He insisted against the objections of his parents on marrying a Philistine woman of Timnath. He went home without his wife, giving the impression that he had forsaken her. When later he returned to her, he found that her father had given her in marriage to another person and offered her his sister instead. In revenge, Samson caught 300 jackals and went into the Philistine fields of corn in pairs. These foxes with burning torches tied between their tails. The Philistines retaliated by burning his wife and her father. The act of vengeance only provoked another and greater from himself. He smote them from hip and thigh with a great slaughter. He took up his abode on the top of the rock called Etam. The Philistines invaded Judah and demanded the surrender of their arch-enemy. Samson allowed the Israelis to deliver him unto the hands of the Philistines, but on the way he broke the cords that bound him. Seizing the jawbone of an ass, he killed 1,000 men. With this great feat, Samson clearly established his title to the position of judge of Israel. Samson's next went to Gaza, a Philistine stronghold, and yielded to the solicitations of a harlot. When it became known that he was in the city, the Philistines laid a trap for him. But at midnight Samson arose, took the 2 doors of the gate of the city and the posts, and carried them a 1/4 mile to the top of the hill before Hebron. God, in his mercy, continued to give him supernatural strength, notwithstanding his evil actions. Continues in his life of vicious self-indulgence, Samson before long became enamored with another Philistine woman, Delilah, whom he lost his physical power. The Philistine leaders bribed her with a large sum of money to betray him unto their hands. But their by their direction, she begged him to tell her what his great strength lay. 3 times he gave her deceitful answers, but at last he gave her opportunities and revealed that if only his hair was cut, he would be like any other man. She lulled him into profound sleep. His hair was cut, and when he awoke, he heard her derisive cry. The Philistines are upon you, Samson. He found that not merely his strength, but also God departed from him. Now, at the mercy of his enemies, he was bound with chains, his eyes pulled out, and sent to grind at the prison house of Gaza. How long he continued in this state of shameful bondage is not unknown. However, some weeks, even months, on the occasion of a great feast to the god Dagon, his captors resolved to make sport of him by making him play the buffoon before the assembled multitude. The temple of Dagon was filled with people, with 3,000 on the roof to watch the sport. Meanwhile, his hair had grown again, and his returning strength, and he longed to be avenged on his enemies for at least one of his 2 blinded eyes. Judges 16, verse 28. He asked the lad who attended him to allow him to rest between the 2 pillars on which the building was supported. Taking hold of them, he prayed that God would help him once more, and with a mighty effort he moved the pillars from their position and brought down the roof, bearing with himself a large number of Philistines in the ruins. In this dying act, he slew more than he'd slain in his life.